guys, welcome to this week's virtual KINSTRETCH class. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on wrist pain and the different areas that can contribute to wrist pain, including fingers and including elbows. So if you've found yourself in the last couple weeks or last couple months having to do a lot more computer work than normal, then this is a great class for you if you're feeling the tightness in the forearms, wrist pain, that carpal tunnel kind of like pain. This is going to be a great class for you. So all you'll need today, I'm going to be using some yoga blocks. What I'm going to be using them for is to rest my forearm on. So you can easily use the edge of your couch, the edge of your counter, or something like that. We're going to be using a ball, a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball, and a pen. So where we're going to start today is we're actually going to start with our finger cars. So a lot of times we don't really focus on or pay a lot of attention to finger control, but this is actually going to really contribute to wrist pain. Most of the muscles that control our finger movement, and you can kind of, as you move your fingers, you can kind of feel those muscles in your forearm working. And so a lot of these muscles actually come through that wrist and up into the forearm and the elbow and insert and attach. So this is going to be kind of a great starting point for a lot of you. And for a lot of you like me, you're going to find that this is actually a lot more challenging than you think. So we're going to start taking our hand. You're going to take that callus pad and you're going to put that callus pad right on the edge of that counter or the yoga block or whatever you're using. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to spread your fingers nice and wide, keeping your fingers on that, or keeping the callus pad on that yoga block or on that counter. We're going to start each finger doing 3 circles one way, 3 circles the other. And the key with this, we're going to start with our pointer finger. The key with this, I'm going to start counterclockwise, is trying to make the smoothest circle you can with that finger, as well as not allowing any other finger to assist in that movement. Good, we're gonna go middle finger next. And for me, this right hand I have a lot more difficulty with than my left hand. And I don't think it's any coincidence that I have a lot more right wrist pain than left wrist pain. Good, and then we're gonna reverse that. And pinky. As you can see, I have a really hard time controlling these smaller digits. And we're gonna go with that thumb next, 3 one direction and 3 the other. We're gonna switch sides now. Callus pad on that yoga block, starting with that pointer finger, 3 one way, 3 the other, and making sure we're spreading those fingers nice and wide. We're gonna go middle finger next. So if you're someone that does a lot of work with their hands, this is gonna be a great daily exercise for you. Just getting good movement, getting good control in each of those fingers. We're gonna go thumb next. Good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab that ball. We're going to work through our wrist cars. Now what we're going to do is we're going to place our forearm on that yoga block or on that counter. And with this other hand, what we're going to do is we're going to pin our forearm to that yoga block or to that counter. What that's going to do is that's going to prevent us from trying to recruit from that elbow and from that forearm to assist in that motion. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna do 3 one way, 3 direction, 3 the other. So you're gonna squeeze that ball. We're gonna go wrist into extension first. We're gonna go pinky in towards midline as we come up into wrist flexion, thumb out and down. We're gonna do 2 more of these. Nice, slow, controlled. This shouldn't be painful. If it's at all painful, go ahead and reverse. If it's at all painful, go ahead and close that angle down a bit. So working through a range that isn't painful. We're gonna reverse. So opposite arm, forearm on that block, pinning that down, squeezing that yoga block, wrist into extension. We're gonna go pinky in towards midline first, coming up, thumb out, and down. If you're noticing, like me, that movement is very jagged, very rigid, it's hard to make a smooth transition for each movement, go in reverse, then this is an area that you probably need to spend a little bit more time on, focusing on that mobility and on that control. Good. Okay, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work through our elbow cards. So our elbow has 4 movements that it can achieve: flexion, extension, and we can also pronate and supinate. And as we go through forearm movement, what the key is to keep this elbow crease pointed towards me the whole time, right? By doing this, you can see how that's my shoulder rotating, not versus here is my elbow rotating. So there's a difference between rotating through that shoulder, that elbow crease moves with my shoulder, versus keeping that elbow crease where it is and working through that forearm movement. So first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna start in this tall or short kneeling position, just as long as your hands don't hit the ground. Keeping those elbow creases pointed towards me, palms towards me, you're gonna squeeze those biceps nice and tight. Continuing to squeeze those biceps, you're gonna rotate palms towards me and extend down. Squeezing the triceps, you're gonna rotate palms towards me. Squeeze those biceps until palms are facing you. Rotate, extend down. One more, rotate, flex, rotate, extend. We're gonna reverse, so palms are gonna be facing back. Squeeze that bicep, squeeze that bicep. Continue to squeeze that bicep as you rotate palms towards you. Extend down, rotate, squeeze, rotate, extend. Last one, rotate, flex, rotate, extend. We're gonna take that one step further and really isolate supination and pronation of that forearm. So you're gonna grab that pen and you're gonna take that elbow and you're gonna pin that elbow right into the side of your torso. From this position, you're gonna grab that pen and we're gonna work through supinate or pronation and supination. So that pen is just kind of some good tactile feedback of how much can we actually drive to try and get that pen as parallel as possible, or here as perpendicular as possible to the ground. So we're gonna do 5 of these, rotating, working through our end range each direction. So squeezing that pen, we're gonna go into pronation, trying to fight through that end range. Reverse, supination, find more end range. Reverse, 4 more, holding there. Supinating. Reverse. Back into supination. 2 more, trying to fight for even more movement through that elbow. Supinate. Last one, making sure that wrist is staying completely neutral. We're not flexing or extending through there. And last one. Good. We're gonna switch sides here. Grabbing that pen. We're gonna work through pronation first, and what you can probably tell is that I have a lot less pronation on this side versus my left side. Again, my right wrist has a lot more pain than my left wrist, so I don't think that's not coincidence. I also, if you're finding significant difference between one side versus the other, pay attention to what hand you usually keep your phone in, right? For me, a lot of times I'll sit with my phone in my right hand, and if you notice, that position is all supination. So I tend to have to really focus my training more on pronation of my right hand than my left hand to kind of counterbalance how much time my elbow is spent in that supinated position. I lost count, so we're gonna do 1 more each direction. And done. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna finish off the class today with some wrist work. So we're gonna start in wrist flexion and finish the day in wrist extension, doing some different exercises in that. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna come into a short kneeling position. If you need to grab those yoga blocks to sit on underneath, you can. But again, we're gonna come into this position here. Now, Wrist flexion, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take those fingertips, you're gonna point those fingertips towards you. Now from this position, you're gonna rotate those elbow creases towards me, and you're gonna sink your body weight back as much as you're comfortable with. You should feel a good stretch through your forearm flexors right through here. For me, I don't have to go far back to feel a good stretch, but for you, if you have a little bit more wrist mobility and control, this might be something where you sink a lot further back. This shouldn't be painful. It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be painful. So if it's painful, back off that intensity of the stretch. And we're just gonna hang out here for a tiny bit while I explain to you what we're gonna do next. So next thing out of this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a PALS contraction. So again, PALS stands for progressive angular isometric loading. There will be no test, but what that means is essentially we're just gonna engage isometrically the tissue that's being stretched. So we're gonna engage this tissue right here. We're gonna start off with a nice and light contraction and work up to a little bit more intense. Again, you be the dictator of what that intensity level is. If we're getting up to the 40, 50, 60% and you're kind of uncomfortable with that and it feels a little bit too much, back off and stop at like 40%, 30%, totally fine. What we're gonna do when we actually go through this is we're gonna try and push those fingertips, kind of the opposite of the callus pads, into the ground, trying to push ourselves out of that position. Nothing's gonna move, but that's the intention we're trying to create. So we're gonna go nice and light contraction first, taking the palm, or the opposite of the palm of our hand, and pushing into the ground at 5%, 10%, 15, 20. Hold there, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, relax. You can sink a little bit deeper into that stretch if you want to. We're gonna go round 2, make sure those elbow creases are pointed towards me. We're gonna go a little bit more intense, so you're gonna push 10%, 20%, 30%, stop here if you're uncomfortable. If you're fine, go up to 40, 50, hold, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're gonna slowly come out of this position. If you need to, just kind of work through those wrists a little bit uncomfortable. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna do what's called some passive range lift offs with that wrist in extension. So we've done this before in different areas of the body, but what we're gonna do, and I'll go from the side so you can see. So from this position, wrist extension is bringing those fingers up towards my face. So we want to see how much wrist extension we can actually control. So where we're going to start is we're going to start in the exact opposite position of what we were just in. So fingertips are going to be pointed away. Elbow creases are still going to be pointed towards the fingertips. And you're going to lean your body weight forward until you feel a good stretch through those wrist extensors in that forearm. So up through here. And from this position, what we're trying to do, this is my max passive range extension, and I want to see how much of difference there is between my passive range and my active. So the goal being as I sink my body weight back, my fingertips are just going to come up with my as I rock my body weight back. So it's almost like if there's a piece of string or a piece of tape from my tips of my finger up towards my elbow, that's not going to change as I rock back. So again, we're going to start rocked forward, keeping those elbows locked. As I sit my body weight back, my fingertips are going to come with me, and I'm just going to sink back until my fingertips get lifted off the ground, and I'm going to hold 3, 2, 1, relax. I'm going to do 2 more of these. Again, find that passive end range, sink back, and as you sink back, fingertips come with you. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, the last one. Creep forward. As you sink that body weight back, bring those fingertips with you until they come off the ground. Hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and slowly relax. Good. We're gonna finish today in a similar fashion as what we just did with those passive range holds, but we're gonna come up into this seated position. So again, to reiterate, if I have my forearm and my elbow at 90 degrees and I bring my wrist into extension, you can see how crappy my wrist extension is. But if I take this offhand and I force that wrist into even more extension, this is how much extension I have passively. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slowly, with my left hand, take my right hand away. The goal being to not have any of that bounce back or that leg, because that is your active range, and we want to have a minimum amount of difference between that passive and that active. So we're all going to see my terrible wrists right now. We're going to go elbow at 90 degrees. We'll start with our right hand. We're going to do 3 of these. So with that left hand, you're going to take your wrist and come into extension. Now the key here is keeping this forearm parallel, so we don't want to drop that down or anything like that. Now find that end range. You're going to take a breath in, and as you breathe out, you're going to create tension throughout your body. You're going to slowly let go of that wrist, and you're going to fight for that extension, keeping those fingertips knife chopped, holding 3 more seconds, 2, 1, reset. We're going to do 2 more of these. Find that passive range, slowly let go, fight for more. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Find that extension. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Shake that out if you need to. Catch your breath. We're going to do opposite arm. So that opposite arm is going to be at 90 degrees. We're going to extend. I'll take this off. We're going to extend that. Find that wrist extension. Take a breath in. Create tension. Slowly let go. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reset. 2 more. Fight for more. Slowly let go. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Make sure that forearm's parallel to the ground. Slowly let go. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And slowly relax. Shake that out if you need to. That wraps up today's wrist class. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for next week's virtual KINSTRETCH.